for something so important, like keeping confidentiality, making sure your practice is HIPAA compliant, all these things, it is super important and crucial, and all therapists want to do it. Why does it have to be so confusing? I just don't understand. Some of us don't even know what HIPAA stands for. And then there's all sorts of nuances. Sometimes you do have to be HIPAA compliant and then you don't. And it just, it's so confusing. And in today's video, I want to clear up some of that confusion. We're not necessarily going to talk just about HIPAA, but we're really going to talk about privacy today and some best practices you can begin enacting today to make sure that you are doing what you can to stay compliant with HIPAA and all sorts of laws and guidelines. Now, I've partnered with the folks over at Jane Software for today's video. They are a practice management solution that is all HIPAA compliant, have gone through the certifications to be HIPAA compliant. We're going to hear from them, talk a bit about HIPAA from their end and what it actually takes to become HIPAA certified, what it means that the practice management solution is HIPAA certified, and how they can confidently tell us that the users of their platform, the people writing notes and seeing clients, how they can say to us that the whole platform is HIPAA compliant. We're going to hear directly from them. That will give us a lot of insights. I think you're going to gain a lot of value from today's video. You're going to walk away with a lot more understanding about HIPAA, privacy, and what you can do about it to make sure your practice follows the guidelines it needs to be. Right, before we jump in though, if you haven't done so already, please go ahead down below, hit the thumbs up button and subscribe. It really does help out the channel, but only if you want to. There is no pressure. Now, just to kind of clear things up, a lot of people talk about HIPAA as like this umbrella term for protecting patient privacy and data and all that kind of stuff. Now, that is a huge component of it. I think aside from HIPAA, well, let's just do this first. What exactly is HIPAA? So HIPAA stands for the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. And a snippet from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services says this. I'll display it on the screen. The HIPAA privacy rule establishes national standards to protect individuals' medical records and other individually identifiable health information, collectively defined as protected health information, and applies to health plans, healthcare clearinghouses, and those whose healthcare providers that conduct certain healthcare transactions electronically. The rule requires appropriate safeguards to protect the privacy of protected health information and sets limits and conditions on the uses and disclosures that may be made of such information without an individual's authorization. The rule also gives individuals rights over their protected health information, including rights to examine and obtain a copy of their health records, to direct a covered entity to transmit to a third party an electronic copy of their protected health information in an electronic health record, and to request corrections. That is a mouthful. There's a lot here. This is not something where, we're not going to pick this whole thing apart today, but this is just a snippet of what HIPAA actually is. It's quite complex. Now, if you dig deeper into the website, you'll actually come across an FAQ section. Now, this section is actually a little more helpful and a little bit easier to understand. And then the question becomes, who has to follow HIPAA and who doesn't? Some people think that everyone has to follow it, but actually if you go into the FAQ section of the website, you're going to find this question and this answer. Who must comply with HIPAA privacy standards? And the answer given is, as required by Congress in HIPAA, the privacy rule covers health plans, healthcare clearinghouses, healthcare providers who conduct certain financial and administrative transactions electronically. These electronic transactions are those for which standards have been adopted by the Secretary under HIPAA, such as electronic billing and fund transfers. And if you read a little bit further, it talks a little bit more about these entities. Now again, this is a helpful answer, a little bit easier to understand, but again, raises even more questions. What exactly is meant by health plans? What is actually meant by clearinghouses? What is meant by healthcare provider? Who falls under that category? I wish this was an easy answer and one to say, oh yeah, that's me or that's not me. But actually there's a lot of nuanced stuff here. So to decide for sure whether or not you need to comply with all of the HIPAA guidelines, you do want to consult a healthcare attorney. They're the ones that are going to be able to give you an answer about how you're supposed to follow HIPAA, whether you have to or not, and if you do, what that looks like, and if you don't, what that looks like, and when you might need to, right? So this first portion of the video is just sharing with you what HIPAA is, and that is not as simple as you might think. It's actually quite complex. But let's move on from HIPAA and let's just talk about some best practices for protecting patient privacy. Now, one of the best practices you can follow is to make sure that your practice management solution, the tool that you're using to document, to intake clients, to do telehealth sessions, all of that, you do want to make sure that that is HIPAA compliant. A HIPAA compliancy is going to be some of the highest standards that something is held to, right? So if a practice management solution, for example, Jane, they are HIPAA compliant. They've gone through the rigorous certification process. That means that their platform is totally secure and it meets all the requirements of HIPAA. That means it's going to protect all of your information, your patient's information. Now, whether or not you need to be HIPAA compliant, I always encourage folks to sign up with a platform that is HIPAA compliant because it's going to ensure the utmost security, that you are actually keeping everything as secure as possible. Actually, the practice management solution has done all the heavy lifting for you. You don't have to worry about where to store it or password protecting the information. That's actually all done. As long as you do your work in that practice management solution, it's all HIPAA compliant and it's secure, it's safe, and it's private.
So a question we get a lot at Jane is Jane HIPAA compliant? And the short answer is yes, we are. But the longer answer goes into the features that we provide to make sure that you as a clinic are HIPAA compliant as well. So let's hop into Jane and see what some of those features are. So here we are in the staff permissions page, and how this helps you to be HIPAA compliant is that you as the account owner are able to define the roles within Jane. So that goes into what people can see. Who's going to be able to see what in your clinic is determined by you. So here we have, for instance, the practitioner limited role. They can only see their own schedule and they can only view patient profiles that are associated with their schedule. So here we have Michael Carroll. I've decided that they are practitioner limited, and then I can actually further determine some other items that I'd like them to see or manage. And in this case, I've decided I don't want them to manage shifts. So this is one tool that we provide to be able to make sure that you are HIPAA compliant. Another way that we can do that is through our intake forms and consents. So let's hop in there and see what that looks like. Okay, welcome to the consent space of the intake form. Now, the consent area is a really important aspect of HIPAA compliance, and we provide a couple right off the bat. So accuracy of information, privacy and sharing of information, as well as cancellation policy. But of course, you're going to be able to go through, customize your consent form, and make sure it's perfect for you and your clients by adding consents. And to top it all off is to make sure you have a require signature. We can click that off and our consent is pretty good to go. So let's talk about another feature in Jane. One of those features is protecting your client's PHI. And that means when we log into your account, of course, with your permission, there's still going to be aspects of your clinic that we're not going to be able to see. And that includes your client's charts. So let's take a look at what we see when we're inside your clinic. So this is what we see when we're in your account. Chart content is not visible to Jane team members. And there are going to be some members of our team that in very, very rare circumstances will be able to access this data, but in your everyday interactions, that PHI is hidden. So let's head back into the schedule and I'll go over some other ways that Jane is HIPAA compliant. So when it comes to HIPAA compliance, there is a physical, technical, and administrative aspect. The physical has to do with the actual storage of your data, and that is in a secure facility with the latest security and surveillance technologies, and there's things like a retina scan. So if you don't pass that retina scan, you're locked in. And for those that like the technical lingo, we are SOC 2 audited and compliant. The technical piece has to do with taking that data from the server, transferring it over to you and back to us. On its journey, that data is 256-bit encrypted. And the best comparison that I can make would be that that's what the banks actually use. And the administrative piece. So not only does that have to do with what we can see when we are in your account, but that we are under strict policy to only enter your account when you request assistance from us. And we go through training as employees as well as sign confidentiality clauses to make sure that we know the data that we're handling is confidential in nature. So that is some of the ways that we are HIPAA compliant, but there are a lot of tools with Jane, not only being able to contact us, but as well as the guides to be able to go over that in more detail.
So that's my number one suggestion. Sign up with a HIPAA compliant practice management solution, something like Jane. You will have peace of mind every time you document, see a client, schedule a client, that it's secure and private. You also want to make sure you have a secure way of communicating with clients, whether you're sending clients documentation, you're sending them records, you're sending them homework. You want to make sure that when you send a client something, that it is secure. Now, Jane also comes in here because they have a client portal where you as the provider can upload documents to clients. You can share medical records, you can share homework, you can share a little note, whatever it may be that you need to share to a client in a HIPAA compliant way.
Another area for HIPAA compliance is going to be what is in control for the client. And that's going to be through our My Account space, or basically the patient portal. They're going to be able to come into their My Account area, and each client will have access to this to be able to see their intake forms, those that have been completed and those that need to be complete, which have those ever important consents included on them. And then we also have our notifications and reminders. Again, for HIPAA compliance, they need to be able to opt in and specifically opt out of those notifications and reminders, and they'll be able to do that through their My Account space. So this is a very transparent and accessible space for clients, and making sure that they are getting the tools that they need, and you as the clinic are providing the tools that the client needs for HIPAA compliance.
That way you know that when you send a record to a client, you don't need to worry about the breaches. You don't need to worry about things getting snagged in the Ethernet, the internet somewhere, right? But that you've sent it through a method that is HIPAA compliant. And this is always a really good idea. And then you also want to make sure you're protecting yourself with solid malpractice insurance that covers security issues, right? So I use NASW Assurance. This is insurance that's actually tailored to clinical social workers, and they have an adjunct insurance that I can purchase specifically for security issues, right? If there's ever a breach or something like that. So you do want to make sure that you are protected well with malpractice insurance that could help you out and protect you if there are any security issues or HIPAA issues. You do want to be protected from that front as well. It is totally your choice. There are tons of options out there, but one way I like to do it is by going to the association of your profession. So for example, I'm a social worker, so the National Association of Social Workers. If you're a psychologist, you can do the APA, the American Psychological Association. Go to those websites and see what insurance they're recommending for their members, right? Because it's typically an insurance that's designed for that profession. Now, another thing you want to make sure of is that if you are using third-party tools, you want to make sure that you have a BAA agreement. This stands for a Business Associate Agreement. And for the sake of this video, I went straight to the source to find out exactly what a BAA is. From the website, it says this: a business associate is a person or entity other than a member of the workforce of a covered entity who performs functions or activities on behalf of or provides certain services to a covered entity that involve access by the business associate to protected health information. So if you put that simply, a business associate agreement is executed between you as the private practice, the therapist, and a third party who is handling your protected health information. Let's use Jane software as an example. I'm the private practice, I'm seeing clients, I'm using Jane's software to document, to have sessions, this kind of thing. So I'm using their tool to help run my private practice. Now, as a result of that, there needs to be a BAA, a business associate agreement. And actually Jane has all of that already worked out that you can read and sign and look at.
If your clinic is going to be recording PHI, and therefore we will be storing PHI for you, you'll need a BAA under HIPAA compliance. So no worries at all, pretty easy. We're going to be able to provide that for you. You can go into the Need Help button here, which is a couple of ways that you can contact us by phone, live chat, or email, and someone at Jane will be able to confirm that we're going to send that to the account owner for signature. But pretty simple process. You just need to request it and we can definitely provide that.
Now that a business associate agreement is basically what allows Jane to have access to the protected health information, right? The client info. So I take a client on, I input their information into Jane, and Jane and I know it sounds like a person, but Jane, the software, and I have the business associate agreement executed, which then makes sure that the whole thing, my practice, the tools I'm using, are all within HIPAA compliance and keeping everything safe. So whether or not you're using Jane, which already has the BAA built in, or another third-party tool, you want to make sure that you have a BAA executed. This is going to be crucial. Now you can find BAA templates online, or better yet, I would consult with a healthcare attorney who can give you a template that you can modify for whatever purposes you might have. But a lot of therapists actually overlook BAAs. They don't really know what they are. But if you're using any tool outside of yourself, outside of your own practice, you want to make sure that BAA is executed, all right? And so these are just some of the things that you can do today to make sure that you are in compliance with privacy and HIPAA and all that stuff, that you're protecting yourself, you're protecting your clients, and you want to do all that you can to make sure that is happening. Now, if you do go with a tool like Jane, that practice management software, almost all of that stuff is already built in for you. You don't have to worry about it. Your video telehealth tool is already HIPAA compliant inside Jane. How you send documents to clients is HIPAA compliant. How you receive payments is HIPAA compliant. How you document, it's all done for you. So we can really make a really strong choice just by choosing a HIPAA compliant software like Jane. We're already going to be way ahead of the curve. And if you're looking to get started with Jane, you can use code Matthew LCSW for a 1-month grace period on your account. Other than that, I hope this video was helpful for you. I hope you learned something. At the very least, I hope it inspired you to thrive in private practice. And until next time, I look forward to seeing you soon.